In the cobblestoned heart of Europe in the old city of Prague, some of history's most shocking and bizarre events took place, moments so strange and violent that they would be remembered forever, as the Defenestrations of Prague, when angered men hurled their enemies out of windows to change the course of history. It all began in 1419, when religious tension gripped Bohemia. The Catholic Church held power, but a reformist movement inspired by the preacher Jan Hus demanded change. The city was a powder keg, waiting for a spark. That spark came when radical Hussites, furious at corrupt city officials, stormed the new town hall. Voices rose, fists slammed, and then chaos. The mob seized the councillors, dragged them screaming to the windows, and one by one hurled them to their deaths on the street below. This shocking act ignited the Hussite Wars, a brutal conflict that tore Bohemia apart for years. But as dramatic as this was, it would not be the last time Prague's windows became weapons. Almost 200 years later, in 1618, history repeated itself. Only this time, the stakes were far greater. The Holy Roman Empire was ruled by the Catholic Habsburgs, but much of Bohemia's nobility was Protestant, and they were furious at attempts to strip away their religious freedoms. Tension built like storm clouds over the city, until finally a group of Protestant nobles stormed into Prague Castle itself. They confronted two royal governors and their secretary, men who represented the power of the Catholic crown. Shouts echoed through the halls, accusations flew, and then came the fateful moment. Rage boiled over, and the nobles grabbed their enemies, dragged them struggling across the floor, and forced them to the high windows of the castle. In a heartbeat, the men were hurled out, plummeting over 70 feet down. Witnesses gasped, expecting mangled bodies. But to the astonishment of all, the men survived. Catholics declared it a miracle that angels had saved their lives. Protestants mocked the story, insisting it was no divine hand at all, but a simple pile of manure that cushioned their fall. But whether saved by angels or dung, the act itself could not be undone. This single defenestration did more than humiliate the crown. It ignited one of the deadliest wars in European history, the 30 Years' War. What followed was devastation on a scale few could imagine. Armies marched across Europe, villages were burned, millions perished from battle, famine, and disease. Entire regions were reduced to ashes, and the balance of power in Europe shifted forever. And yet, when historians trace back the cause of this nightmare, it all leads to that strange and violent day in Prague, when rage and faith collided, and windows became weapons. The Defenestrations of Prague remind us of a haunting truth. Sometimes, history does not turn on the clash of mighty armies or the speeches of kings, but in moments of raw fury, when ordinary men driven by hatred and desperation use the simplest of actions, like throwing someone out of a window, to set the world on fire.